Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya.
Sadhana Chatushtaya is a teaching of the divine sage Adi Shankara. This teaching refers to the 4 traits that one should strive and develop before and during one's spiritual journey.
Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya.
Namaste, welcome to KYG. Another beautiful day on the banks of the Ganges. In the holiest of holy cities, the oldest city in the world, Varanasi, also known as Kashi. In today's class, I want to continue on the fourfold prerequisites that we talked about, the 4 pillars, the foundations, sadhana chatushtaya, as Adi Shankara taught us. So we covered to some extent Viveka, we covered to some extent Vairagya. Viveka meaning the ability to distinguish, the ability to prioritize, the clarity in your thinking and so on. Vairagya, the second one, is where you learn dispassion, detachment, where you learn to stay aloof. That Vairagya quality, and of course Viveka, this kind of flows into the third one. The third one is called Shat Sampatti. Shat Sampatti means 6, let's call it virtues. Again, Sampatti means wealth. Sampatti means wealth, like you have wealth in the bank. That's your Sampatti. I have like $1 million in the bank, so that's my Sampatti. Right? You say that. Or I have $5 million in the bank, that's my Sampatti. Or I have children, they are my Sampatti, they are my wealth. My family is my wealth, my home is my wealth. So Sampatti is more like a wealth. But because we associate wealth with something in English, I'll go with the word virtue for now. But basically the meaning is, it's like an asset. It's like the thing you really need to strengthen, that strengthens you, that fuels you, that energizes you, and that's the money you're going to use, that's the wealth you're going to use. So let's go with virtues for now. I don't like to keep calling it wealth and saying it's sense control and all of that. Doesn't make sense. So anyway, Shat Sampatti. Shat is 6, Sampatti is wealth or virtue. So 6 virtues. They are, let me just spell them out for you, and then we'll try and cover it as much as you can in this class, and we'll see how it goes. Shama is the first one, Dhamma is the second one, Uparati is the third one, Uparama, Uparati, Titiksha is the fourth one, Shraddha is the 5th one, Samadhana is the 6th one. I know I threw a lot of Sanskrit words at you. Sama, Dhamma, Uparati, Titiksha, Shraddha, Samadhana. So these are the 6 virtues, or 6 modes of wealth, or 6 wealth that you need to cultivate and you need to maintain in order to progress in the spiritual path. Shama pertains to the mind. Shama means, it's like Sama. Samatvam yoga muchyate. The ultimate yoga, the ultimate aim of yoga is samadhi. Samadhi is a combination of sama and buddhi, where the buddhi, the intellect, the mind stuff attains a stage of equanimity. So samadhi, samatvam yoga muchyate. Gita talks about the real yoga is that when you attain equanimity. So when people ask me, how do I know if I have progressed in yoga? How do I look for signs, or do I look for experiences? All I tell them is the way I learned it, is that if you are able to maintain equanimity, if you understand the depths and the power of equanimity of the mind, then that is your reflection of how much you have progressed, your ability to maintain equanimity in your mind. So Shama, Sama, Sama, Sha, Sa, it doesn't matter here at this point. Shama is equanimity of the mind. When the mind, because Vairagya, we talked about detachment, right? The I in you decides to just sit back and watch the river flow by. Watch the dirt, watch the flowers, watch the lamp, watch all of this just go by gently. And you're not affected because you don't associate yourself with the river, right? If all that was going over you, then you'll be like, oh my gosh, I'm being affected. But because you see yourself different from the river, you just see the river and say, oh, that flower is going by beautiful, or oh my god, that's dirt going on in the river, and so on and so forth. But you are sitting back and watching it go by. Similarly, if we are able to watch ourselves and all the experiences that go on in and around us, and not associate ourselves with it, which we learn in Vairagya, detachment, dispassion, then Shama comes in. Shama then becomes where the mind, this is pertaining to the mind, because the mind is constantly caught in the turmoil of the senses. The ear wants to hear something, the eyes want to see something, the nose wants to smell, and they all want to be good and all of that, right? So the mind is caught up in this turmoil between hearing, seeing, smelling, touching, tasting. And once taste is over, then they want to smell or they want to see, like, immediately after food, go to TV, or after TV, go to do this, do that. And so when the mind learns to detach itself from the sensual experience and not get affected by the ups and downs of the senses, not get caught in the cravings, there is two qualities here. Let me pause for a second. I think there's a boat going by. In understanding equanimity is balance between what? Between the two forces of pushing and pulling. And what are they? In Vedanta, in the path of yoga, in the path of Veda, and in student of Sanathana Dharma, you learn that your mind is always caught and oscillates between two opposing forces. One is raga. Raga is attraction, craving, wanting. Okay, so let's call it attraction for now. That is raga. I want this, I want that, I want to taste this, I want to see that, I want to touch that, so on and so forth. Raga. And then the other extreme is dvesha. Dvesha is repulsion. I don't want this, I hate this, this is bad, oh my god, this is awful, this is ugly, and so on and so forth. So from extreme wanting, attraction, and you have repulsion. It's like two sides of the magnet, right? So one attracts and one repels. So the mind is caught because the senses are either attracting the mind towards what it likes, what they like, what you have trained them to like, rather, because there's no objective such thing as everybody will like. However, you have trained it. So the mind goes here and then it comes here and it keeps on getting oscillated between these two. So where is equanimity? It's not equanimity. So when you run away from something that is bad, saying, oh, these are bad people, I want to stay away from them, or this is a bad movie, or this is bad music, I want to stay away from them, you are not creating, or you're not going towards equanimity, because you are going away from this. And when you go away from one extreme, guess what? You're going to go to the other extreme. Oh, I love this music. Oh, these are good people. Oh, this is spiritual atmosphere. And so we psych ourselves into believing how a spiritual atmosphere should be, how a materialist atmosphere should not be or should be, or whatever it is. We kind of create these conditioned thought patterns, and then we get addicted to it. Then we teach it to our children, they borrow it, and thus we form a community that kind of believes in the same idea, and religion is formed, dogmatism is formed, institutions are formed, and so on and so forth. This is right, this is wrong, this is the way you should do, and this is not the way you should do. These are the people you got to avoid, and so on and so forth. Shama is one that says, I am in the middle, neither good nor bad. Mano buddhi ahankar chittani naham. See that beauty of some of these poems written by these great yogis are amazing. In one stanza in the Song of Liberation, again let me pause. There are these little tiny motorboats that pass by, and so I didn't want the noise to come in the way of what we are talking here. So when the mind is in the center and he says, I am neither this nor that. So some of these great poems written by yogis, rishis, there are so many, hundreds and hundreds of them. Poems, these are not Vedic mantras or anything. These are poetic renditions of the ultimate truth. In that there is one paragraph, it says, Na punyam, na papam, na saukhyam, na dukkham, na mantro, na tirtham, na veda, na yagnaha. Aham bhojanam naiva bhojyam na bhoktaha chidananda rupaha shivoham shivoham chidananda rupaha shivoham shivoham. My guru Satya Sai Baba used to repeat this so many times, and it's my favorite. It says, unaffected by virtue, this is the essence of that. Unaffected by virtue, untouched by vice, I feel no pleasure, I face no pain. No magic chants empower me, no mystic places purify me. I am not the dogma, nor the doctrines, nor the sacred fire of pilgrims. I am not the sense, I am not the sensuous, I am not the sense. Sensuality makes no sense, cause I am truth, consciousness, divine bliss. I am the Shiva. The Shiva am I am the Shiva am I am the Shiva am I. Na bhojyam, na bhokta. Bhojyam and bhokta is not just translated literally into eating. Eating is one, like I said, tongue represents sensual pleasures. So when you go on tasting food, you're actually indulging a lot of sensual pleasures. It's kind of symbolic. So the poet here, Adi Shankara, writes, Bhojyam, I am not the food, I am not the eater, I am not all of that. In other words, I am not the sensual objects, I am not the person enjoying this, I am none of this. I am Chit Ananda and Rupa, I am Chit Ananda, Chidananda Rupa, Chit Ananda. My form is Chit and Ananda, it's just consciousness and bliss. I am the Shiva am I. That, to attain that, that's a beautiful concept. It's nice to think of. But how do you experience that? So the prerequisite to get there, it first train your mind to get a taste of that Chidananda Rupa. So to order to be there, the mind has to say, I am neither affected by virtue, neither by vice, neither by praise nor by blame, neither by white or black. Nothing affects me. Samatvam yoga muchyate. My mind is rooted, if you will, in equanimity. Now, it's not an easy practice. And it's not difficult either. Once you know that the I in you is not at all connected to any of these experiences, and you are the one who's causing this just for the pure joy of how consciousness plays a game, if you will. Life is a game played. So you come here for the joy of playing the role of experiencing life. At this moment, let that be our understanding. If that is so, then the I in me is not affected by what the mind and the senses experience. Senses simply bring information to the mind, to the brain processes it, and there is a software called the mind that begins to develop and recognize these conditioned patterns of likes and dislikes and forms a condition. That is a natural feature of the mind. You're not going to be able to change that, because the mind's job is to respond to the senses. The mind is created by the senses. It's like a virtual reality, a cloud, if you will, a data cloud like we call it. Where is the cloud where all your most precious data is stored? It's not a physical thing that you can say the cloud is right here. It's everywhere. In other words, it's a virtual reality created by physical servers. So the physical senses, the physical computers, if you will, the eyes, the nose, the tongue, the ears, the skin, the sense of touch, hearing, taste, smell, all of that. All these physical senses create a virtual reality called the mind. And so when these senses don't exist, does the mind exist? That's a question you have to ask yourself. What happens in deep sleep? The senses don't exist, but does the mind exist? So when we say mind, we're just talking of a very superficial understanding at this point of the mind that is connected with the senses. Because of this virtual reality, there are many layers of this. A part of the mind that we carry through many lifetimes with us. It becomes a chitta, a part of that, where all experiences across all lifetimes are stored, and we carry that with us. The brain dies, right? Brain is just a physical organ. It is just a tool. It's like a computer. The computer can die, but you can install the software on another computer. Software remains. And so the software is the chitta, which records all these experiences. And that is what we are trying, and we are even beyond that. But at this point, the mind is part of this chitta that is constantly recording. So the mind's nature is to constantly interact with the senses. So in order to train this mind to experience the highest state of equanimity, we teach ourselves to be in a state of neither here nor there. Nahi bhaiya, nahi. It's nice to be polite to beggars, but sometimes they just bring kids, and they are all young ladies there behind me just walking past. They just stopped me from recording and started pestering me. Anyway, where was I? Talk of equanimity, and your equanimity and your equanimity is always challenged. It's always challenged. Right now it's getting challenged. Jao. Arey jao. See, there you go. So the equanimity is always challenged. I'm just being downright honest how these things happen here. It's not like I get upset, but it just, you have to pretend to be angry to get them out. You can't be nice to them. They just don't get it. Anyway, so the point here is, how do you train your mind to remain in a state of equanimity? That doesn't mean you don't function in the world. Like I said, just now these beggars came. I just told them, get out, don't disturb me. It's not like my equanimity gets disturbed, but it is just that you have to learn to function without losing that sense of balance. It's possible physically, right? When you watch these village folk. Yesterday I saw some ladies, they were carrying pots of milk. They had one pot of milk, then they had something else, curd on top of that, then they had 2 or 3 pots on top of the head, and walking by, and they were happily chatting as if nothing mattered to them. So they were in the same traffic that I was like looking here and there just to keep my 2 feet on the ground. But these ladies were happily chatting, and maybe they had a mobile phone also they could have taken out and spoken on it. My point is, how are they able to balance this on top of the head? Something that can crash and break and bring a lot of financial loss for them. How are they able to balance that and yet carry on in their regular conversations, the regular traffic, which others find it so difficult? Practice. Right? Practice. So it is just with the same practice that you will learn to be in the world. You'll train your mind to be in the world and not be affected by it. You train your mind to observe the senses, take information from the senses, but let the mind not make up its mind. In other words, let the mind not go back into its same old, oh, I want this, I hate that, I like this, I hate that, I like this. So stop the mind from oscillation. The mind comes to the center. This samatvam, Shama as it is called, this quality is attained by meditation. So in meditation, in your class today, as your homework, to understand equanimity, and you practice this for the next few days, go on adding these classes, the lessons of these classes, one upon the other, add it on. They all exist in harmony. It's not one instead of the other, it's one on top of the other. It's layers and layers and layers of learning. In your meditation today, as you sit, just sit and with your eyes closed, listen to the sounds that come into your ears. Don't judge them. Don't get attracted by them. Don't resist them. Simply observe what kind of sounds come in. Observe. the frequency of the sound, the nature of the sound, the length of the sound, the quality of the sound. Simply observe what all sound. Now as I sit here, somebody is banging on the wood there, somebody is talking, I can hear a child, I can hear the waters lapping against the steps here in the ghat. So if I close my eyes and I listen to what all kinds of sounds are generally registering in my mind. Just observation. Then holding that, you add one more sense to that. See, it's like that, having one pot. First learn to balance with one pot on your head and then add one more pot on that. Then you say, okay, now let me bring in the sense of smell, because both these can be done with your eyes closed. So with your eyes closed, hearing is done or not done. It's like I got my mind around all the way at sound patterns and the sound waves that are coming to me. And then now I add on the sense of smell. What am I smelling? What does the air contain? So the quality of the smell that goes in through my senses. No judgments here. Simply observation. And then you add one sense on top of the other. The last being the eye. Then you open your eye towards the end. Because once you do the ears, then you do the nose, then you taste. All this can be done with the eyes. With your tip of the tongue, feel the saliva, feel the texture in your mouth, feel it, because that will help you taste food when you eat, and you will instinctively become aware of what is good for you and what is bad for you. That knowledge is right here. What is good for your body, your knowledge, your body holds it here, but you have got to train it. You just can't say he likes the pizza, so I must like the pizza. Like is different. Whether it's good for you or not is a whole different question. So you can train your tongue, but you have to first tune into it, right? So hearing, smelling, tasting. The touch is feel your fingertips. What is it? How does the skin feel the air around you? Sense of touch. And finally open your eyes and see what presence in front of you. Look at it with absolutely no attachment. Then your mind begins to be very tranquil. It maintains a sense of equanimity. The mind learns to taste the experience of equanimity, and therefore that mind begins to reflect when it becomes tranquil like a lake, unaffected by the inputs from the senses, even if it is for a brief few moments every day. It becomes a very important practice in bringing about this quality of Shama into your lifestyle. Okay, so practice that. Just simply sit with your eyes closed, listen to the sounds, feel the sense of taste, feel the sense of smell, one at a time, and become very mindful. It's not one instead of the other. Remember, when this pot is placed, when you add another sense, this pot is not taken off, it adds on top. So ultimately you'll be carrying 5 pots on your head, and you will be able to function without being attached to these 5 senses. You will allow your mind, you will train your mind to be withdrawn. That is Shama. It's like, I need to meditate, I'm going to go to my room, so you go in and shut the doors. That is Shama. Withdrawal of the mind. Detachment of the mind. Holding the mind in balance. When you hold it in balance, then it will not go this way or this way between raga and dvesha. It will actually go above raga and dvesha. Once the mind learns to rise above dualities of likes and attraction and repulsion, then you begin to taste spiritual experience. Then there's no coming back. Once you taste that kind of joy where the mind tastes it, it's like, no, I'm not going to get caught in this crazy crowd. I'm above it. That is the beauty and the power behind the quality of Shama. So we learned Viveka, we learned Vairagya. When I say learn, understand that we have just opened our minds to learning more, and as you practice you will learn more. Automatically your inner guru will teach you Viveka, Vairagya, and among these 6 qualities we take the first one, Shama. The third one is called Shat Sampatti, and in the Shat Sampatti, the 6 virtues, the first virtue is Shama. So practice Shama, think about Shama, meditate on Shama, in your meditation today, tomorrow, or whenever next time you sit with your eyes closed. Try this. How do I detach my mind from the senses? Thank you for your patience. Thank you for watching KYG's classes. Thank you for being part of this journey. And thank you for giving me this opportunity to teach from this wonderful city, Varanasi, Kashi. Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya.